Take my lips, O Lord, and speak through them. Take our minds and think with them. Take our hearts and set them on fire for Jesus Christ's sake. Amen. Amen. Many times the gospel is perfectly clear and you can understand it fairly easily. This week, I found the gospel to be somewhat unclear, and so I had to struggle and lean into it a little bit to hear the gospel message, the message of the good news. And I invite you this morning also to lean in with me to hear the good news. I remember an occasion when my parents demonstrated their trust for me, but I did not live up to it. I was a teenager, and my parents had to go out of town to be with a relative who was ill. And I was about 15. My older brother was 17, so they felt they could leave us at home to take care of the house while they took my two younger brothers with them. My mother carefully left prepackaged dinners and other food for us to have, but we were to clean the dishes every night and not mess up the house. Well, you know how well that took place. Her instructions were not kept whatsoever. We were home alone, 3 days without parental oversight. Yippee! We stayed up late. We watched TV till all hours. We left the dishes piled high in the sink. We ate popcorn and got it all over the place. Now, it was our plan to clean up everything after we got home on the third day, the day they were to arrive back. We calculated that we had a 3-hour window from the time we got home from school till when they should be returning. And so we had it all planned to have everything spick and span. But, as always happens, they returned early. And they were standing in the family room when we came in. We were busted. They had left us as managers, as stewards of the household, and we had failed them. When I hear today's gospel lesson, I always remember that time of failing as a steward of what had been entrusted to us. Of course, I could have pointed my finger at my older brother and said it was his fault, but really, the fault was as much mine as it was his. Their trust in me was misplaced. As our confession today suggested, we had followed too much the devices and desires of our own hearts. We had left undone those things which we ought to have done, and we had done those things which we ought not to have done, and there was no health in us. We were corruptible, and we had been corrupted. That wasn't the last time my sin was ever to be pointed out to me. There were many other times, but it was one that I remember. We are all sinners, and we've all done those things which we know that puts us far from God. There's a story about Senator Huey Long, the politician from Louisiana, who was trying to get reelected one year. And so he was campaigning in southern Louisiana, where he was taken aside by the local politician and reminded that he would be speaking to a lot of Catholic voters that day. Throughout the day, Senator Long told his audience how, as a boy, he would get up at 6 o'clock on Sunday mornings to hitch the family horse to the buggy and take his Catholic grandparents to Mass. And after he brought them home, he said he would turn around and take his Baptist grandparents to church. At the end of the day, the local politician complimented Senator Long and expressed his surprise at the fact that he had Catholic grandparents, to which Huey Long replied, "Don't be a fool. We didn't even have a horse." Political hyperbole is not a new thing. It's not a modern thing. Well, this dishonest stewardship parable, which we hear today, really can cause us troubles, I think. We know the kind of person Jesus is talking about. We know the type. They are the rascals, the rogues, the crooks, the liars, and they're pretty much unethical people. These stories are not good examples of how we are to live our lives, but this is just the kind of story Jesus told about a crook, a dishonest steward who was commended for his dishonesty. He had cheated his boss and was being fired, but before he lost his job, he thought about how he could continue to take care of himself. He was used to a good living and couldn't bear to think about having to dig ditches or to beg for his livelihood. So he decided that the people who owed his boss money would be grateful to him if their bill could be changed. And so he invited these debtors in one by one and asked them to change their bill. His boss finds out about it, and instead of becoming angry, as we might think, he commends the guy for using his head, for thinking fast on his feet, so that he would be taken care of. I believe Jesus was using dry humor here to make a point. This is a negative example, a negative parable. There's a bit of irony in this story. We aren't to be like the honest steward in his dishonest deeds, but here's the point to me. We are to be like him in the initiative he took to get himself out of his desperate situation. Jesus is letting his disciples, those around him, whoever he was talking to, know very clearly and point blank that the men and women of the world are getting ahead of the people of the light. They're beating us. They are corruptible, and they've been corrupted, and they're doing better at their lives than we people of the light are doing with our lives. This conniving rogue faced the facts, sized up the situation, and acted in quick, cold logic. Jesus wished that his followers would do as much from nobler motives. Jesus is saying in a humorous way, if only the disciple was as eager and ingenuous in his attempt to attain goodness as the people of the world are in their attempts to attain money and comfort, it would be good. Jesus wants us to act with the same intensity, the same vigor in our discipleship toward him as the rascals, the cheats, and the crooks act in their attempt to gain comfort and wealth in the world. If crooks and those who are looking out only for their own welfare are so ingenious and can act so decisively about things that really don't matter, why can't the disciple who seems so casual about the care of his or her own life? I'm hoping that you can see the point I'm trying to make here. Jesus is saying that the people of this world are so intense in their way of life. Why aren't my followers equally intense in our way of life? If the crooks of the world will stop at nothing to make money, why aren't we who are followers of Jesus as committed to him with such a zeal and ambition and dedication? Jesus says the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. He's saying, why aren't you committed to me with such shrewdness as the people of the world who are looking out only for themselves? It's interesting to me how much Jesus' parables are about the handling of money, and he brings it up in this parable as well. Of the 38 parables Jesus told, 19 of them deal with the handling of our material wealth. 19. Baptism is important to our faith, but there are 16 more verses in the New Testament on the handling of money than there are devoted to baptism. The Holy Communion is very important for our faith, but there are 32 more biblical statements about financial management than the Lord's Supper. Since Jesus had so much to say about it, I think we ought to pay some attention. Some preach that money is evil, and I do not believe that is true. I don't believe that money is evil. I believe money is actually neutral. It is what we do with money that counts. Money can be used to fund a facility like this one, which offers respite from the daily cares of the world. We offer spiritual growth for those who attend and compassionate outreach for those who are lost and searching. Actually, those things don't have any price. Those are wonderful things, and we are a part of that. But money can also be used to buy weapons or drugs or fund a pornography business. Money is used for empty entertainment, which invades our homes via television or the internet. Money is used for all sorts of things which are not godly. In the long run, this parable which we examine today deals not with money, I don't believe, or commending a person for being dishonest, but this parable really deals with one's commitment, one's discipleship towards Jesus. Jesus wants our lifestyle committed to him. He wants the way we act, the way we think, the way we make decisions, the way we interact with others, all to be influenced by our commitment to Jesus Christ. It reminds me of a little tune, and I shared it at the earlier service. I can't remember where I learned it, whether it was at a camp or in a children's chapel, but it goes like this. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus in the morning, Jesus at the noontime. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus when the sun goes down. I thought I heard a few choir members up there humming it. You are God's steward. You are the manager of all he has given to you in this life. Can God trust you? That is the question we are left with today. But Jesus says it quite clearly. You cannot serve both God and wealth at the same time. And so he offers us a challenge to look to Jesus and put our trust in him. Can God trust you? Amen.